Okay, here's where we're at today. We've spent most of the day working on our rotted front frame rail. Went ahead and just cut out that inner fender around where the battery box was. Just gonna put a new piece in, smooth it up, and we replaced the frame bottom all the way back to the suspension points and tied everything in good. Got a piece of tubing across the front with a piece of 3" by 12 gauge backing it up to simulate what the core support looked like. And you can see we got all that tied in. Still got a lot of little details to do. This side over here was pretty good. We did the outer skin mainly where the bumper bolts on. I got the through hole for the bumper, and then I welded some 1/4" plate behind it, and we're gonna drill and tap those when we put the bumper back on. But still got a lot of little pieces to do. And I mentioned earlier about modifying the 6-cylinder frame mounts, and a buddy of mine was over here the other day and he was looking at what I was doing. He goes, well, I've got a 64 Comet that I'm scrapping. It's got the bolt-on mounts exactly like what you need on it. So he hooked me up with those, and we're going to see if the engine won't just sit right in there without any fabricating. That'll save us quite a few hours. So we'll add some more to it as we make progress. Okay, we've set the engine in for about the 8th time and beginning to get things to fit. You can see we had to notch and reinforce the shock towers to make room for headers. I don't know if you can see this one up here. Yeah, you see it up here by the oil filter. Just barely got clearance. We're having to lower our sway bar a little bit to clear the fuel pump. And I've got clearance on the drag link to the oil pan when I've got the wheels turned lock to lock. But for some reason, with a stock starter, the drag link is wanting to hit the bottom of the starter. And I've been looking at this car, and the drag link, you probably can't see it too well in the video, but the drag link's running a little bit uphill toward the passenger side, which is making that problem worse. So I think rather than spend the money for an expensive compact starter, since I've already done a lot of frame reconstruction, I'm gonna go ahead and lower, and it's kind of hard to see there. I'm gonna lower the idler arm and reinforce it and get that drag link level, and I believe it'll solve 2 problems. So anyway, that's what we're at on that. And you can see up in here we've got, see that daylight between the header and the shock tower. So it's gonna be close, and we're gonna have to modify that header to be more of a, not a rear dump, but in between the back 2 cylinders, let it dump and then come down to clear our clutch linkage and shift linkage. And on this side, move this cable. On this side, you can't see it too well, but we had to clock the flange on the header to get it away from the frame. So we've got plenty of clearance over there now. And had to do a little minor work up in the tunnel. And you can see we've got transmission fitted, and right here is where the original cross member would have been, and ours was much further forward, so we've made a removable transmission cross member, and it bolts in where we've added this lower frame structure. So you can kind of see what we're doing here. Got to finish welding and trimming all that up, but that's going to be a nice drop out. And then I believe I'll be able to run the exhaust if I trim the transmission support top corners off. I can come right through here and stay above the cross member with the exhaust and keep everything tucked real nice. So still got a lot to do, still got a lot of metal work to do, but at least we've got all of our structure back pretty solid. So until next time. So here we are, we're going to lower the idler arm a little bit to get this drag link level and give ourselves some starter clearance. And so what I've done here, I've taken it off, and you want to lower, you don't want to just follow the angle of the bolt holes. You want to come down, you know, vertically so that the suspension geometry stays right. So you can kind of see where I've punched about where the hole's going to go down. Now, there's more involved in this than just drilling 2 new holes through the chassis. As you can see over here, we've cut the frame out and we have to move this crush sleeve that's in between the frame rails. Otherwise, as you tighten this up, it will just crush the sides of the frame rail in. So we're going to cut that loose, re-drill our holes, put the crush sleeve back in, and then plate the outside, and it'll actually be stronger than it was originally. So a little more involved than just drilling a couple holes, but it's really not that big a deal. So moving on. Okay, we've got the idler arm dropped and bolted in, and we'll take it all back apart. We're going to be cleaning up the engine compartment and smoothing everything up and painting it. And you can see what we did on this side. We got that plated and got the crush sleeve in it, and that'll actually be stronger than it was originally. And once it's cleaned up and painted up in the fender well, nobody will know the difference. Okay, and here's our finished product, the engine compartment painted. Still a little bit wet. It's not going to be quite that shiny, but anyway, looks pretty good. Be good enough for this project.